Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mac's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.SheilaMac.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today we have special guest Terry Tucker. Terry has been on NCAA Division I college basketball player. He's a Citadel cadet, a marketing executive, a hospital administrator, an undercover narcotics investigator, a SWAT team hostage negotiator, a high school basketball coach, a business owner, a motivational speaker, an author, and most recently, a cancer warrior. He is the author of Sustainable Excellence, 10 Principles to Living Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. Terry and his wife have lived all over the United States and currently reside in Colorado with their daughter. And Terry started a website called Motivational Check-In to help others find and lead their uncommon and extraordinary lives. That's wonderful. Welcome to the show, Terry.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm excited to talk to you today.
All right. And this show actually started with my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this last almost 2 years now, we've had just about every situation and then some show up. So I'd love for you to share about a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a difficult situation and how you got back on track.
Sure. So I guess I'll give you my cancer journey. It's probably the most poignant to me right now. 2012, I'm a girls' high school basketball coach down in Texas, and I have a callus break open on the bottom of my foot. Don't think a lot of it because being a coach, you're on your feet a lot. But after a couple of weeks when it didn't heal, I went to see a podiatrist, a foot doctor friend of mine, and he took an x-ray and he said, Terry, I think you have a little cyst in there and I can cut it out. And he did. And he showed it to me, a little sack of fat in it. No blood, no dark spots, nothing that would give anybody any concern. But he sent it off to pathology. And then 2 weeks later, I get a call from him. And as I said, he was a friend of mine. And the more difficulty he was having telling me what was going on, the more frightened I was becoming. And so finally, he just kind of laid it out there. He said, Terry, I've been a doctor for 25 years. I have never seen the form of cancer that you have. You have a very rare form of melanoma. And we all think of melanoma as kind of a skin disease. But there's a rarer form that I have that appears on the bottom of your feet or the palms of your hands. And he said, I recommend you be treated at MD Anderson in Houston. And so I did. I had 2 surgeries at MD Anderson to remove the tumor and all the lymph nodes in my groin. And then when I healed, I was put on a weekly injection of a drug called interferon, which for me basically gave me flu-like symptoms for 2 or 3 days every week after each injection. And I took those weekly injections for 5 years. So imagine having the flu every week for 5 years. And that was just to keep the disease from coming back. That wasn't to cure me at all. When that was stopped in 2017, 2018, the disease came back. I had my left foot amputated. 2019, 2 more surgeries when it came back in my shin. And then last year during the global pandemic, I had an undiagnosed tumor in my ankle that grew large enough that it fractured my tibia. And my only recourse during the pandemic was to have my left leg amputated above the knee. And I also found out I had tumors in my lungs. So on that uplifting story that I just had to say, that really has gotten me to a point where I've developed what I call my 4 truths. And these are things that really help me to decide what treatment I'm going to take, to what kind of projects I'm going to get involved in. And I'll give them to you. They're just 4 sentences. I have them on a Post-it note right here. The first one is you need to control your mind or it will control you. Yeah. The second one is we need to embrace the pain and the difficulty that we all experience in life and use that to make us stronger and more determined people. The third one is more of a legacy truth. And the third one is what we leave behind is what we weave in the hearts of other people. And then the fourth one is pretty self-explanatory. As long as you don't quit, you can never be defeated. So I use those 4 truths along with what I call my 3 F's, faith, family, and friends, to kind of get me through these past 9 years.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot to get through. My goodness. Yes. And that's something that until somebody is in the middle of a storm like that, it's hard to fathom. And you don't really think about it until it happens. And then it's like, now you really get to pull out all your tools. Your real personality shows up. You start to decide what matters most. Your values can change or get redefined or clarified. And it's a huge life shift when it happens. And there's also many gifts that come from that. Yes. So during this time, whatever you're going through, if you're listening in, know that your best self will show up. Now, Terry's going to share some more about his tools and ways to help. So this is incredible. So I'd love to hear more about when you were going through these weeks where you had the flu symptoms with this medication. What got you through that? Did you have a mantra or a prayer or a meditation or practice? What else helped you through those times?
Yeah, I guess maybe I should back up a little bit and sort of let your audience know that I there's no S on my chest. I don't wear a cape. I mean, I don't have all the answers, and I have bad days. There are days when I cry. There are days when I get down. There are days when I feel sorry for myself. We're all going to experience pain in our life, and it doesn't have to be cancer pain or terminal illness or chronic illness like mine. It could be you flunk an exam, at school, or you break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or you don't get the promotion at work that you think you deserve. Pain is inevitable. Mm-hmm. Suffering, on the other hand, that's optional. That's what you do with that pain. Do you take that pain and use it to make you stronger, to make you tougher, to make you more determined? Or do you wallow in it and want to feel sorry for yourself and want other people to feel sorry for you? I just choose, I get there, I get in those down points, but I just choose not to stay there. In terms of how I got through those weeks, every week for 5 years of having the flu, for me, it was about trying to win the day. And sometimes winning the day for me was just getting out of bed. Yeah. Sometimes winning the day was being able to throw a load of laundry in the wash machine to help my wife out. If I was really feeling good, maybe I could go to the gym and ride a exercise bike for 20 minutes or something like that. So it was really trying to win the day. And sometimes, like I say, winning the day was just winning this 5 minutes. And that's all I could do. So I didn't, believe me, there were days that I literally prayed to die. I just like, God, you just take me out of this constant, achiness and headache and throwing up and things like that. And it's physically hard on you, but it's also emotionally hard on the people you love, your family. And, for me, it's my wife of 28 years and our daughter, who's now an adult, but when I got cancer was 15 years old. So, it was a difficult time, but that's how I got through it. 5 minutes at a time, just trying to win the day.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's something that you don't realize. As you hit a difficult situation, you don't realize you're in it, or that you may be not depressed, but maybe sad or grieving from just the fact that you're sick or the fact that you've lost a loved one or whatever the situation is. And it's as you slowly do these little things like getting out of bed or something really little, it helps you do the next thing and the next thing. So that's something for me. I lost my youngest son to a heart condition, and he's only 22. And it was like, how am I ever going to like get up again?
Right.
And this was 2019 at the end of the year, and some of the kids moved home. I have a big family, and different things happened because it hit everyone so hard.
Sure.
But it's those stages, honoring the grieving part too is okay, because it helps you. And I think there's something to, if we let that out a little bit, if we talk about it, share about it, and it becomes okay to go through that. It's not, you don't get stuck there because you let it out, or it doesn't manifest into a pain in your body or something else going on because you've expressed it and gotten it out. So, and also to be able to ask for help when you need it. And a guy like you've done all these incredible things, and then to have to ask for help when you're like, no, I'm the provider, I'm the one that helps the family. That's really a hard thing to do.
It is. And I think I'm very fortunate. My wife and I have a very supportive type of relationship. As you mentioned, my first two jobs were, I was in the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International in their marketing department, the hamburger chain. And then I was a hospital administrator. But my passion, my purpose was to be in law enforcement. And I remember, my wife had married me when I was a suit and tie, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday kind of guy. And we were living in Santa Barbara, California. And I just happened to see this circular that came in the mail that was offered by Santa Barbara City College, a class that if you took it, you could apply to be a reserve police officer with the department. And I remember sitting at dinner one night and I'm like, hun, kind of like to do this. What do you think? And she was, yeah, go ahead. And I had a job. I had a regular job. I was a customer service manager of an academic publishing company. And I would work that job all week. And then on Friday, I'd come home after work, put on my uniform, go to roll call, work all night, and come home. And my wife would say, yes, you would be exhausted, but you would have this big smile on your face,
Yeah.
And I knew that was kind of what you were supposed to do. So when our daughter was born and we moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, and I said, hey, I'd like to do this full time, she was incredibly supportive. But then after about 10 years, she lost her job and she needed to move. So it was up to me now to step up and say, okay, you know what? If we need to move to another state, that's fine. I'll find something else to do. I am more than a police officer. And unfortunately, during the time I was in law enforcement, I saw a lot of people that their identity was tied to that gun and that badge. And they were afraid to retire because they thought they were nobody without the job. And I never felt that way. Yes, I thought it was my passion and my purpose, but I always knew that it wasn't who I was, that I was something much more than that.
Wow, I love that. That identity is a big thing. And it's a big thing when you go through a change in your job. It's a big thing when your kids grow up. Especially for us moms, I think there's this whole identity thing that happens, and it's you define yourself as a parent, and now you've got an adult, and you've changed your whole relationship, and it's a whole different game. And so there's something about that, being okay with knowing your values, your core of who you are, and staying with that no matter what you're called to do. So in my book, my mantra was, in all I'm doing, it's who I'm being and how I show up. It doesn't matter if I'm cleaning or, walking the puppies or dealing with something that doesn't sound so glamorous. It doesn't matter. It's how am I showing up to even that's going to affect everything around me. And that's my identity more than what I'm doing at that moment.
You're right. And you and I both know people who are present, but they haven't shown up, and they're, and we know these people, and you kind of look at them and it's like, why, what, if you're going to be here, why not give it everything you have? If you don't want to do that, then just don't show up, don't physically be here. But
Right.
and that's, that was one of the things I used to always tell my basketball players. It's like, you know what? Two things I used to tell them. One, you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That was incredibly important to me, to get them to realize that. And secondly, I always used to tell them there's only two things you can control during a game. One is your attitude, and the other is your effort. It doesn't matter, if you think you're going to go out and score 30 points today, the referee may have a bad game, call a couple of fouls on you, now you're sitting on the bench. That's okay. Attitude and effort are the only things you can control. And if you think about that, that's true in life as well. Those are really the only things that we can control. You have to make a big presentation and the AV equipment goes out and all that kind of stuff happens. Well, you can get all upset about it and show your quote unquote true color, or you can work the problem and fix it. But yeah, I love that analogy of people who show up, but who are present, but haven't really shown up.
Yes, yes. In fact, years ago, I had gift stores when I opened my first one at 23 years old. And I had a rule for all my employees, who were usually twice my age, because I hired talent, right?
Sure.
The deal was, if you don't want to show up today, if you have something you need to do, I do not want you here. Because the clients, the people that walk into the store will feel that energy. If you're not present, this is in a relationship, at a job. If you're not fully present there, then you might as well go home, because I would lose business if somebody shows up who doesn't want to be there. I would be better off just running the whole place myself, this 5,000 square foot store, than having people show up that didn't want to be there. And so that was the rule. And it made it really easy, because when they wanted to show up, or I said, who can help with this big, sale weekend or whatever, everybody was on deck, because they knew they could have that time when they needed it to be with somebody. Maybe they had a parent that needed some care, or whatever was going on. I was like, okay, good, go do that, because that is important. And I value that. I value these people as more than just employees.
Exactly.
We're still friends today. That was a long time ago. So yeah, so that's something that's super important, especially right now for those that run businesses or have teams or whatever. When you're working with people during this crazy time, it's a different time, and things, there's so many challenges going on. So being aware and giving people some space to deal with whatever's going on, maybe they have children home because the schools are closed or whatever, and to give them that space, and you actually will benefit, and your sales will go up, or everything gets better when you're able to put the people first. It just makes such a difference.
Yeah, and any relationship, the underlying or the overlying thing that's important is trust. And if we're in a business relationship, if I don't feel I can trust you, then everything kind of goes out the window. And when I was a hostage negotiator with the Cincinnati Police Department's SWAT team, that was, as a policeman, you're dealing with people face to face 99% of the time, whatever it is, traffic stop, you get called on a run, whatever it is. But as negotiators, we weren't dealing with people face to face. So we had to figure things out based on what people were saying, what they weren't saying, and how they were saying it. And we never lied to anybody during that. I mean, we had people say, hey, I'll put the gun down and I'll come out, but you got to promise me I'm not going to go to jail. It's like, well, I can't promise you that. When you come out, you are going to go to jail. But we try to deflect that and get, okay, but let's talk about this. But the reason we never lied is because there was a very good chance that a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we would be back negotiating with the same person again. Oh, wow. And if they didn't trust us, if they felt, hey, you lied to me, then there was no way you had any credibility, and there was no way you're going to be able to do your job. So you had to turn it over to somebody else. So trust was an incredibly important thing in any relationship, business relationship, personal relationship, certainly when we were negotiating with somebody that was either barricaded or had a hostage.
Wow, that's some serious training then you had to go through to be able to work with those people. And That's quite a skill and an intense situation for sure.
It, it
Yeah.
was. It was a lot of fun. And several years ago, there was a movie that came out called The Negotiator, where Samuel L. Jackson plays this guy. And I always get, is that the way it is? It's like, no, that's totally not the way it is. I mean, we do it as a team. One person may be negotiating, but there's a person sitting right next to them who is writing you notes and based on their listening, and don't ask that. And then there's even 3 or 4 more people that are kind of out in the crowd talking to the person's, spouse or brother or sister or whatever. And, they're like, well, why is he doing this? Well, he's mad at his mom. So you'll get a note, don't talk about his mom. So it's really a group effort. It's not there's no way one person could do all that, could manage all that. And we had a lot of training. We worked with a psychologist, and we did a lot of scenario-based training and things like that. And, sometimes even when you do your best work, we were negotiating with a 15-year-old kid who had a hostage, and nothing we were doing was working. And finally, we kind of put our heads together, and we're like, well, he's 15 years old. Let's scare him. Let's be a parent. Let's scare him. So literally, we broke a window and we threw in a flashbang grenade. It doesn't explode or anything like that. All it does is produce a loud sound and a very bright light. And literally within 10 minutes, he was out. It's like, part of that. So sometimes you got to be a little unconventional and do something that, maybe you wouldn't normally do. But you work with great people. You have great people that train you. You do the best you can and hope everything works out.
That is so interesting. I love that. And I think that can be applied to life and in many different areas. And I think also with motivating ourselves. Sometimes where we've got to motivate ourselves. And I know you have this motivational check. I'd love to hear about how that works.
So motivational check was actually a phrase when I was in the police academy. We had a defensive tactics instructor that said, anytime we're doing something and you're kind of at the end of your rope, you don't think you can go on, just yell out motivational check. And the rest of us would respond with a really a loud 84. We were the 84th recruit class to let the person know it's like, hey, we're in this together. You're not by yourself. We're all hurting, but hang in there and we're going to get together or we're going to get through this together. And so that was really the impetus as to why I started that. A great story about our defensive tactics instructor. He used to have us bring a photograph to class of the people we loved the most. And we would look at that photograph as we were training in these different techniques, because he reasoned that you will fight harder for the people you love than you will fight for yourself. And I thought that was, I've always remembered that. He wanted you to realize that at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you get called to that bar fight or that drunk person and they pull a knife, that, there's a mom or a dad or a spouse or kids somewhere that want you to come home. So you got to remember, you might get in a bad situation, but you're going to fight harder for them because they want you to come home. So that's just a great story. This is kind of a motivator that he was. And motivational check one day, after I had my foot amputated, literally I would lay in bed at night and be like, all right, God, what's next? What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? I didn't know what to do. And there's sort of that old joke that goes, when we talk to God, it's called prayer. When God talks to us, it's called schizophrenia. So, God never talked to me, but people were like, hey, maybe you ought to start a blog. Maybe you ought to, and I was like, very resistant. I'm like, no, I can barely turn my cell phone on in the morning. What do you mean to start a blog? How do I do that? And literally my motivational check started out with 4 pages and literally took me 4 months. I would start it and I'd be like, I have no idea what that means. I've got to go research it and come back. I'm sure my 25-year-old daughter could have done it in about 15 minutes. But for me, it was just, I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to learn. So every day I put up a motivational message, just a quote or something like that. And then on Mondays, I put up the Monday morning motivational message. Could be a video, could be a story. But I realize people's time is kind of at a premium. So they're short. They're 5-10 minutes to watch a video. You need a quick hit of inspiration or motivation. Go to motivationalcheck.com and hopefully there's something there that can help you out.
Wow, I love that. And when you were sharing about that with the station and how you would be like, we need a motivational check, that's something parents, if you know, families at home or couples in a relationship, that's something great, you know, whatever you want to call it, where you have a code word that's like, hey, I need your support. That is such a beautiful concept to bring into your lives, especially during this interesting time.
That's great. I never thought about that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, think about, we're all kind of confined with each other. It's like, you know, hey, if I say this word, I just need some space, you know, leave me alone, just give me some space. Yeah. It probably help a whole lot of relationships.
Yeah. Relationships, or, you know, teams, people working together. Maybe you're still zooming in on meetings, but even then, to have some kind of something where during a team meeting, where you can talk about things like that, where if somebody in your group, your work group needs something, there's some kind of a code word so that you can support each other. That makes it easy and kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's great.
Great. Yeah, that's so good. And so now, what is your goals next? Or could you give me an idea of how, like, if I went to the motivational check, are you offering different programs, or how does that work?
I really, if I, you know, with COVID, I have not done a whole lot of motivational speaking engagements. It's just been, I've really kind of, you know, had to really adjust how I did things. And so podcasts for me have been an opportunity to kind of get my story out there.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll change now that things are starting to open up, hopefully a little bit. But, you know, you can leave me a note, you can leave me a message, you can, you know, if you're interested in having me come and speak to your group or something like that, there's information about that on there. All my podcasts, whether they be video or audio, are on there as well. I have recommendations of books that I think are good, videos on there that I think are good, and things like that. So it's kind of a, I'm not going to say a hodgepodge, but there's all kinds of different places that you can click on, and it'll take you to some place that hopefully will inspire or motivate you.
Yes. And that's something so interesting. During this time, I was supposed to do my book tour, and then the world closed down, and I was like, okay. And yet now I have clients and courses that I teach in Australia, South Africa, London, I mean, all over the world. And it's just people I would never be able to, like, hop on this plane and that plane full time. It would be impossible to reach the people that I'm able to reach, and then through this station and this show. And so that's something that I just keep saying yes, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, when you have a message or something that's going to help other people, say yes to the opportunities, and more opportunities show up. It makes a big difference.
It does. You know, it's kind of like we talked about earlier, being present. You know, you've got to be there. And if you're present for this, who knows? Maybe somebody will see, and now you want to be present for something else.
Yes, yes. And something I share about that, I don't know if you've heard of the 211. You probably have. I don't know. Have you heard of 211?
I have not.
Okay, so this is very important. This is not a paid thing, but this is something that I wanted my book and my show to give as many resources as possible. And if you Google 211 and your state, Nevada, California, New York, wherever you are, you will get a list of all the resources. So if it's mental health help, getting health care, food on the table, help for veterans, help for seniors, all kinds of, you know, maybe whatever you need, health insurance, there's all kinds of help and resources, suicide hotlines, everything. If you're getting out of an abusive situation, dealing with a loved family member that's, I don't know, addictive to drugs or whatever it is, there's something there. And it's so easy to share this in your workplace, at the school, parents, because a lot of times people don't ask for help when they need it, or they don't know the help is there. And this is every state in the United States, and all the provinces in Canada have the 211. And you can also dial 211 and you'll get the resource help. Somebody will answer and direct you to the resources that are available. So it just showed up. Somebody yes, shared about it on my show. I was like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted, because you need to get to ground zero. When you're going through a difficult situation, a tough time, you need to get to a place where you feel safe, where the basic needs are met. And then you can read the book, apply the programs, do all these other things. But to get there, sometimes you need those extra resources.
And and that's so true. When I was a negotiator, I mean, if you think about it, if I was negotiating with you, if you were talking to me, you were probably having the worst day of your life. And the fact that, I was there, a lot of times the problems had been, 10, 20, 30 years in the making. And those people had never sought help. They'd never had any resources like you were talking about. So, I guess I would echo what you're saying. If you need help, there's nothing wrong with getting help. We all need help from time to time. So if you need help, get that help so that problem doesn't fester and you don't end up talking to a hostage negotiator at 3 o'clock in the morning about something that maybe could have gotten nipped in the bud 5 years ago or 10 years ago if you would have just been willing to take the help that's out there to help you with it.
Yes. And what that makes me think of is safe people in our life. There are people that are safe. And then whether you're a student in school, a parent working, there's maybe somebody that doesn't feel safe or has a lot of stuff going on. Keep that in mind. And that doesn't mean to not try to help them get help, but it means to keep yourself in a safe place with healthy boundaries so that that person doesn't get to the point where they're violating something in your life or a hostage situation or something difficult happens or they drag you into their drama. So it's getting them help, like just having that poster up about the 211 that you could print or whatever, little things like that. And then keeping that safe space and awareness of that. It doesn't mean that they're bad people, but there might be a mental health situation. They may have just been hurt.
Yeah, and you can't solve everybody's problem. I mean, you can provide people with resources, and it's up to them. And as negotiators, probably 90% of the people we talked with came out. We got them out peacefully and safely. But there was probably that 10% that chose to end their life, and I very tragic and horrible. And I don't mean to sound callous, but I never lost any sleep over that because I know I had great training. I worked with great people and I did the very best I could to help them come out peacefully and safely. Mm-hmm. But if it was their choice, that's fine. And so you don't want to get sucked into somebody else's drama and be in a bad situation that was like, wait a minute, I just tried to help, but why are the police here kind of thing?
Yes, that's very true. Wow. So that's something too. There's a lot going on now. I don't know, I guess because schools are closed, but I remember when my kids were in school. Now I have 6 children. I adopted three of my own. So I've got this big family. I remember there was one year where the school was on lockdown. And there was some kid with a gun or something and nothing came of it, but it was really scary for them, for parents. And it's something we didn't have when we were, your age, mine, we didn't have this kind of stuff. It's a different world. And so talking about these things at home, talking about them at work in preparedness for situations, if you're a manager or own your business also, you don't know, client, you could have a client, you could have somebody walk in. When I had my gift stores, you could have somebody walk in that's not quite right. I remember once I had a lady walk in and she was an older lady. And I had hired these kids from they're leaving, they're emancipating from foster care. And I said, okay, now this is a really nice area and I'm preparing you. I'm going to show you and be very nice. All these clients are very sophisticated, whatever. And this lady walked in, she took all her clothes off and started throwing things. Well, and they were like, really, it looks like the streets to me.
Good area, yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Well, but I was aware that up the street was a home for dementia patients. And she was a dementia patient. And so we, kept her calm and, didn't let people in for a few minutes. And the police showed up and we had and one of the nurses came over at the same time because they actually had their number. And so just being aware of your surroundings.
It is. Yeah. And that's incredibly important. And, it kind of goes back to the, if you see something, say something. Don't be afraid that, I don't want to be the snitch, or I don't want to be the person that, tells on this person. I mean, especially in schools, if you know somebody's got a gun, if you know they're planning to do something, have the courage, have the character to kind of, for lack of a better word, man up and do what you need to do, instead of having that person go into that school and kill people or shoot people or whatever. I ran into that so much as a police officer. People I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get, but you need to get involved. That's what a good person does, is get involved and help other people. And, it's funny. I still remember my very first run as a police officer. I was working the night shift. We started at 11, 12 o'clock, we get a run. And a man this couple was in their house watching TV. And this old guy just walked in and sat down. And so they had no idea who he was. He just walked into their house and sat down. And he had no ID on him. They called the police. We got there. Nice old man, but we had no idea who he was. We ended up having to take him down and fingerprint him to see if we could find out his name and where he might live, and that he had no idea where he had dementia and all that. So that was my very first run as a policeman. I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, and it's if you have elder care, and I have a whole chapter devoted to elder care. I took care of all my elders, and went through that when I was younger. So I took care of grandparents even, and then parents. And so it's something that whole relationship is really difficult when you're parenting your parents at a certain point. And there's things to be aware of and look for, that maybe if there's signs that they're forgetting or different, and it could be different things. It's not always dementia.
Right.
Sometimes it's a vitamin deficiency. Sometimes, literally vitamin D, certain things or medications can cause the same look, or they could have fallen and had a concussion. And that's what's going on. So there's things that I learned the hard way because nobody told me.
Right.
And it was, oh, wow. And I had to find out. And there was lots of mistakes, so much money spent that could have been saved because you don't know what you don't know. And so, and to be able to honor our elders and have this beautiful relationship at that time in their lives, and ask for help when you need it there. Because a lot of times it's really tough. I mean, I just had a dear friend that messaged me and took care of his mother for months and months and months. I hadn't heard, and it was all taking care of his mom, who's like in this almost 100. And, so this is a tough time, and it's a whole different situation that goes on. And the more support you can give, maybe you have a neighbor or a friend that's got an elder parent that they're caring for. Little things can make such a difference in just, okay, you know what? Do you need me to run? I'm going to the store. Do you need anything? I'll pick it up for you, because it's hard to bring mom or dad with you or get out to go to the store. Little things like that can really help right now.
That's one of the things that I found, and I talk about it a little bit in my book. When I had cancer, the number of people that were like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And it was like, well, wait a minute. The same things that you have to do at your house, cut the grass, take the dog for a walk, go shopping, take the garbage. Those are the same things I have to do at my house. But now I'm going to go in for surgery. I don't have time to think of how you can help me.
Yeah.
So, don't stand on the sidelines and try to convince yourself you're playing in the game. When I had my first surgery to remove the tumor on the bottom of my foot and all the lymph nodes in my groin, I had a very good friend who was in his 90s, and he was in World War II. And I did not have to stay in the hospital after that surgery. And so I just been home for about 10 minutes, and my cell phone rings, and his name was Bud. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Terry, can I come over? I know you just got home. I'm like, yeah, sure, Bud, come on over. And within like 15 minutes, he's standing in our living room with a fully cooked chicken and a pan of cream cheese Danish that he had bought at Costco. And he's like, here, you have dinner for tonight and you have breakfast for the morning. He didn't ask what we needed. He just got involved and did something. So, and I know I've been guilty of, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And don't be that person. Just know that they need to get stuff. You're going to the store. I'm going to pick up some milk, some bread, some the things that they need. Don't ask, just get involved.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And just the fact that you're checking in
Mhm.
they don't feel so alone. And you're like, okay, I feel this. I feel this energy, and it kind of lifts your spirits.
Yes.
And that's what you need. I think that lifting your spirits, or just call and talk and, joke about something, divert their attention from the suffering. Laughter is so healing. They
Oh,
even
it
have
is.
laughter yoga now. I mean, we need this. And during this time, I don't know, I've worked with families that when the COVID first happened, the lockdowns, where they were like, we're fighting, the kids are fighting all the time. And I was like, are you guys fighting? Yes. And I said, when was the last time you as a family went and played or did something fun? Oh, we haven't done that for now a couple months since it started. Why? Because it was so serious. Oh my gosh, we've got to, survive. The business has got to thrive, got to get the kids to learn. And it was so serious. And as soon as they put the laughter and the fun back in, the kids stopped, and they stopped fighting. The kids stopped fighting.
Right.
They were just mirroring the parents.
Right.
And they didn't see it. And a lot of times just getting perspective from someone outside of yourself is so helpful. We just can't see it sometimes.
You're right.
Yes. Now, I'd love for you to share the title of your book again, and then maybe your favorite chapter in the book.
So the book is called Sustainable Excellence, the 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. And I love this because the principles are not in any order, 1 through 10. One is not necessarily more important than number 8 or whatever. But when people read the book and things like that, there always seems to be one chapter that resonates. It's like, this one resonates with me, or that one resonates with somebody else. And the one that resonates with me, that I always seem to be drawn to, is this one. It's, most people think with their fears and their insecurities instead of using their minds. And I know I've done that. I know I've been in life where it's like, oh, gee, I'd really like to do that. Ooh, what if I fail? Or, what are people going to say if this doesn't work out? Are they going to laugh at me and make fun of me and stuff like that? So we make decisions based on our fears. We make decisions based on our insecurities. What if we just made decisions based on our mind? Yeah, that's a good thing for me to do. I've been in this dead-end job for 5 years. It's time to get another job. But again, that goes back to kind of the 4 truths of controlling your mind, because as soon as you do that, the brain likes the status quo. Things are comfortable. Don't mess with them. What do you mean you're going to get another job? You may not get along with people in your new company, or you understand the work here and it's easy and you're making good money. Those are the negative thoughts that your brain are going to put in your mind. And if you realize that your brain knows your fears, it knows your insecurities, and it knows your vulnerabilities, it's going to use those against you anytime you want to step out of the status quo. But here's the problem. In order for us to grow, we have to do that. We have to step out and say, you know what, this scares me. And I always tell, especially when I talk to young people, if there's something in your heart, something in your soul that you have a passion for, and it scares you, I'm going to tell you to go ahead and do it. Yeah. Because at the end of your life, the things that you're going to regret are not going to be the things that you did. They're going to be the things that you didn't do. And by then it's going to be too late to do them. So thinking with your fears and insecurities is really kind of my favorite chapter, because I've done that so many times in my life.
Oh, wow. I love that. And, it made me think of, I grew up in Glendale and La Cañada, California, which is a beautiful place. And where I lived, when my children were young, there was a lot of people that were friends, active in the community. I was really active with the school district and with the community and just everything. And so I had friends that literally, I think the oldest was 102, that was still mentally like on top of things. And I remember this other guy, Jack, he played golf every morning and he looked 60. And one day he came into Starbucks and I said, let me card you, because he said it was his 90 something birthday. And it was. And I said, oh my gosh, you're looking good. and so these people, the thing was, they had all their, they made their money, they did their thing, but they did not care about the good opinion of other people. And they didn't base a friendship on the person's appearance or financial status. It was how are they showing up, that whole who you're being again. And they were just so real. and so wonderful to have my children around these people. They were like, I adopted them all. We'd have these big celebrations, holidays and everything. And that was such wisdom, the wisdom of not giving a flying duck about the good opinion of others. And they had a happy life. They didn't care. And they cared about things. Obviously, they're involved with all these community activities, but they didn't care about those opinions. And the stories were when they were younger, they did. And the minute they made that switch, they had the freedom to live the life they wanted to design for themselves. And the peace. And they were just peaceful, happy people. And still good friends today, those that are still living. And what a gift and such a wonderful thing to have in my kid's life as well. But that's it. The opinions, it starts young.
It does. I mean, and it's in the schools and social media. And, you will say something nasty to me over social media that you'll never say to me to my face.
Oh, yeah.
And when I talk to young kids, especially, I mean, what you were saying kind of goes back to the Martin Luther King quote of judge people on the content of their character, not on the color of their skin. It doesn't matter what you look like. I mean, that's when I had a nurse one time ask me, what was it like to have your foot amputated and your leg amputated? And I told her, I said, wasn't easy. It hasn't been easy. I'm still learning how to walk, but that's not who I am. You can take all my faculties, but cancer can never touch my heart. It can never touch my mind. It can never touch my soul. And that's who we are. That it's not what I look like or what you look like or any, where we live or anything like that. That's not important. But yeah, kids today are so mean to each other. I mean, I've got a daughter who went through that and was bullied. And, you can't tell this by looking at me, but I'm 6'8" tall. My daughter's 6'2". And, it's kind of like, yeah, you probably don't want to bully her. I mean, it's like, you're not going to win that fight. But the things that people say to each other, and then kids let that be the determining factor in that, well, Mary said I was ugly. Well,
oh, my.
Here's what Mary says.
Yeah.
I mean, surround yourself with people that think you are beautiful, that you are kind, that you are good. And surround yourself with those people. The people that, are bullying you, get those people out of your life. They're just negative people.
And they probably have some really negative self-talk.
Yeah.
I think when you do this whole thing with self-care, self-love is because you refuel yourself first. So if you're getting a lot of negativity in or having your own negative self-talk, that's what's going to come out, whatever you're putting in. And it's really sad. But I remember, obviously with 6 kids and all these schools. And at one point I actually taught in the schools so that the kids could go free to these great schools, whatever. And, it was interesting because the children were very much like the parents. So if you had a gossipy little girl, the mama was gossipy or and it was like, wow, what is this? And so it was parents, they don't do what you say. They do what you do.
Yeah.
100%.
The apple doesn't fall very far from the tree, does it?
Yes. So that's it. So it's really, what do you value? Share that and talk about the good things. They'll get enough of the negative or, be constructive in corrections, because when you look at that, it's, of course, let your kids learn by the mistakes when it's easy and safe. Okay, you know what? You did your own homework. I helped you when you asked and you got a D. All right then. And then you learned, rather than when you're an adult and the lesson is you go to jail or, something tragic happens because the parents are overprotecting, where, do the homework for the kids, do everything. So so the children appear better and they could brag about the kids. And it's like, but who is that helping?
No, it's not. And I used to tell my kids on the basketball court, if you give me 100% and we lose, I'm okay with that. But if you give me 80% and we win, I'm not okay with that. That's not something. I want you to bring it every single day. What we're talking earlier, I want you to show up every single day and give me 100%. If you do that, I can care less what the scoreboard says, as a coach, because I never talked about winning or losing. I don't have any control over whether we win or lose. You have no control as players over whether we win or lose. So let's take that out of the equation and let's just say we're going to show up, we're going to give our best effort. And if you do that, then in anything, whether it's business, whether it's school, whatever it is, if you do that, then, and I had the same problem, with parents thinking, I played college basketball for 4 years. I played against Michael Jordan. I played, and I've got parents trying to tell me how to do my job. I remember being at the parent meetings and saying, look, if you don't tell me how to do my job, I won't come to your work and tell you how to do your job, because I don't know how to be an accountant or a lawyer or anything like that. But yeah, give 100% every day, and then let the chips fall where they may. As you said, you got to make sure you gave 100%. Don't tell me, I gave 100%, but I only, I held this stuff in reserve. No, leave it all out on the court is what I used to tell my players.
Yes. And as a parent, or, just in your own life going through a tough situation, sometimes that 100% is less than perfection. And that's like so fine and perfect, and it's okay. It's really morally neutral if the dishes all got washed and the laundry got done when you just came home and you had a surgery. It does, it's like, it shouldn't be a judgment, or you shouldn't feel bad about it, because it's like, give yourself credit for what you did, and then know, okay, the end of today, I did my best. And for today and tomorrow, that may be way better, but for today, this was my best. And just do that. Give yourself a little bit of love. And, this is a global pandemic, everyone. It's okay to give yourself a little bit of slack here and there. And then know next day, okay, I'm going to show up a little better. If there's something you need to catch up on, fine. But love yourself through that. And then watch how that will show up with your employees if you're a boss, with your children if you're a parent. They'll start doing that because you're living that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember when our daughter she played basketball in college as well. And when she was making the decision on where to go play, she ended up deciding to go play at the Air Force Academy. And I said, great. Okay, you've made your decision. Now there are these other coaches that have been interested in having you come play for them. You need to call them and tell them, your decision. She's like, I'll just send him a text. I'm like, no, you're not going to send him a text. This has been a relationship that has been built. You are going to call them. And she had a very difficult time with that. We actually had a role play how that would go on the phone, because kids are so, I can text all day long, but I can't talk to you face to face or on the phone. And I remember several of the coaches at smaller schools that weren't as good academically, and the basketball the caliber wasn't as good as what she was going to get at the academy, got mad at her. And a couple of them started to yell at her. And I was like, good. That's life. People are going to act that way. You've got to realize that, and you've got to be above that. It's like, okay, you're going to yell at me. And, I used to sit there and think, really? You're upset with her because she's going to get a better education, play better basketball, and she didn't come to play for you? I get it. But it was just one of those things where, I always used to tell young kids, especially young parents, remember, you're the parent. You're not their friend. You're going to have to make the tough decisions. And, they're going to get the point where they're going to, bang and scream and throw the door and all that stuff. And they're going to tell you they hate you. And that's when you look at them and says, well, I love you. And that's why I made this decision.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty hard to defend against love. Love is like, it always wins. No matter what, that's for sure. So we are coming to the end of our talking time. So again, I'd love for you to share where people can go to do a motivational check, and also to get your book.
So the book can pretty much be bought anywhere. You can get a book online at Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Apple iBooks. You can actually go to motivationalcheck.com, my site. Leave me a message there. You can get access to buy the book on Amazon. So the easiest way to get to me is motivationalcheck.com.
All right. Thank you again, Terry, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Sheila.
And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages. Is not one size fits all, just like a pair of boots or a bra. So The formula is designed to help you through any situation. To grab a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. It is now available on Audible as well as on Amazon and Kindle and at www.sheilamac.com.